Hello friends. Welcome to Defense Matrix. On this channel you will get fully information about defense and technology. Let's view the video. How 16th century explorers' sailing ship works. The birth of naval engineering in the age of exploration. The 16th century marked the dawn of a new world, not just in discovery, but in engineering, ambition, and power. This was the golden era of European exploration, where kingdoms like Spain, Portugal, England, and the Netherlands raced across oceans to claim lands, treasures, and dominance. But none of that would have been possible without a revolution in naval technology. For the first time in history, humans were building ships not just to sail close to the coast, but to cross entire oceans. These weren't just boats, they were floating fortresses, mobile bases of war. Trade and exploration. Caravels and galleons were two of the most iconic ship types developed during this period. Their design wasn't just about movement, it was about survival, combat, and control of the sea. The integration of lateen sails allowed them to tack against the wind, while square sails gave them powerful forward thrust when the wind was in their favor. Combine that with newly adopted magnetic compasses, and you had ships that could travel farther and more accurately than ever before. These ships transformed empires. They brought gunpowder across oceans, carried explorers like Magellan, Vasco da Gama, and Columbus, and connected the world in ways never seen before. The birth of naval engineering in the 16th century laid the groundwork for the modern military navy, and every warship today still carries the DNA of these early explorers' ships. This is where maritime dominance began, and understanding their engineering is understanding the roots of modern defense and technology. Anatomy of a 16th century explorer's ship. Imagine stepping aboard a 16th century explorer's ship, a vessel designed for months at sea, unpredictable weather, and potential battle. To the untrained eye, it might look like a simple wooden ship with sails, but beneath its timber skin lies a masterpiece of early naval architecture. Let's break it down. At the heart of the ship is the hull, the wide, curved body that keeps the vessel afloat. It was designed to be both sturdy and flexible, allowing it to withstand crashing waves and shifting cargo. Made from oak and pine, the hull was layered and reinforced with iron spikes for durability. It's what gave the ship its strength. Above the hull rose the main mast, foremast, and mizzenmast, towering poles rigged with an intricate network of ropes, sails, and pulleys. These masts supported different types of sails: square sails for speed, and lateen, triangular, sails for maneuverability. This hybrid design allowed captains to change direction based on wind conditions, a revolutionary concept in its time. At the back was the stern, housing the captain's quarters, navigational instruments, and the steering tiller or wheel, which was connected to the rudder beneath the ship. This rudder system gave the ship precise control, a major leap from older steering oars. Most of these ships also had a raised forecastle and aft castle, giving them a height advantage during naval combat. Cannons were placed strategically on the gun decks, turning these ships into deadly war machines. Every single part had a purpose, not just to sail, but to survive. These ships were early examples of mobile defense platforms, combining speed, endurance, and firepower. It was this complex anatomy that allowed empires to rise and the world to change. The science behind wind navigation and sail design. Here's a question: how did explorers in the 16th century cross entire oceans, with no engines, no GPS, and no modern instruments? The answer lies in mastering the wind through ingenious sail design and early physics. At the core of sailing technology was an understanding of aerodynamics, long before the term even existed. Ships in this era used a mix of square and triangular sails. The square sails captured strong tailwinds, propelling ships forward with incredible force, perfect for long-distance travel across the Atlantic or Indian Oceans. But what if the wind wasn't going your way? That's where lateen sails, the triangular ones, came in. These could be angled to catch wind from the side, enabling ships to sail against the wind using a technique called tacking. This changed everything. It meant explorers could navigate into the wind, follow complex trade routes, and return home, something earlier civilizations struggled to do. Then came the rigging systems, a brilliant network of ropes, blocks, and pulleys that allowed sailors to adjust sail angles. raise or lower sails, and react quickly to changing conditions. Without engines, this mechanical control over sail shape and tension was the only way to steer and manage speed. All this was supported by the latest navigation tools, the astrolabe, quadrant, and magnetic compass, which helped sailors track latitude, direction, and even the position of stars. This wasn't just sailing, it was early science in motion, blending geometry, astronomy, and physics with real-world problem-solving. It's no exaggeration to say that the 16th century explorers were among the first engineers of global mobility. These design principles still live on in today's ships, including stealthy naval vessels that use wind, radar deflection, and hydrodynamics, proof that 500-year-old tech still echoes in modern defense. 4. Weapons and defense. How ships were armed for battle. In the age of exploration, every voyage was a gamble, not just against the ocean, but against pirates, rival nations, and unknown enemies. So, these 16th century explorer ships weren't just floating homes, they were floating war machines, built for survival and domination. The primary weapon? Cannons. Early ships like the galleon were fitted with broadside gun decks, allowing them to fire multiple cannons from one side. These iron or bronze beasts could tear through hulls, splinter masts, and scatter enemy crews. Reloading them was slow, but a single volley could decide the fate of a battle. Strategic design played a major role. Cannons were placed below the deck line behind gunports that opened during combat. This kept them hidden during peaceful voyages but ready for instant action. Ships often carried 10 to 30 cannons, depending on size and purpose. Merchant ships had fewer, but military ships were bristling with firepower. In close combat, sailors used muskets, crossbows, pikes, and swords. Some decks were even lined with spiked barriers and boiling tar to prevent enemy boarding. Crews trained for both sailing and hand-to-hand combat. They were soldiers of the sea. The forecastle and aft castle gave height advantages, allowing archers and gunners to rain down attacks while staying protected. Some ships also carried firebombs, primitive grenades used to set enemy decks ablaze during boarding attempts. And let's not forget armor. Thick wooden hulls were layered and sometimes even reinforced with iron in critical zones, making the ships harder to penetrate. This was naval defense and offense blended into one floating fortress. These ships weren't just about exploration, they were symbols of power, deterrence in disputed waters, and the first step toward global naval supremacy. The innovations in weapon placement, deck design, and tactical engineering laid the foundation for the modern warship and the defense technology we rely on today. Life on board, technology and survival at sea. Sailing across oceans in the 16th century wasn't just an adventure, it was a deadly challenge of endurance, technology, and discipline. While the ships themselves were marvels of engineering, life on board was a daily struggle against starvation, disease, weather, and fear. To survive months at sea, these ships carried precisely rationed supplies. Food was preserved using salt, smoke, and vinegar. Barrels of hardtack, rock-hard bread, salted meats, dried legumes, and sometimes live animals were kept in the cargo hold. Water was stored in wooden casks, but it often went stale, forcing sailors to mix it with beer or wine to make it drinkable. Navigation was another test of tech and skill. Crews relied on hourglasses, lead lines, and constellations to measure time, depth, and location. A miscalculation could mean weeks off course or running aground on unseen shores, but the biggest threat? Disease. Scurvy, caused by lack of vitamin C, could wipe out half the crew. Poor hygiene led to lice, infections, and dysentery. Early ships had no real medical facilities. Instead, crews depended on makeshift remedies using herbs and prayer. Despite the dangers, every crew member had a role. There were carpenters, cooks, navigators, gunners, and riggers, each trained to keep the ship functional and mission ready. If the rudder broke, the carpenter fixed it. If a cannon jammed, the gunner risked his life to reload. To lift morale, music, games, and storytelling were common. Some ships carried religious icons, believing divine protection guided their journey, and yet, even with all these difficulties, these ships successfully circumnavigated the globe, discovered new worlds, and changed history. Their survival was due to a blend of discipline, innovation, and early maritime technology that anticipated many features of today's Navy vessels, from modular storage to supply chain planning. Life on board was brutal, but it was also a testbed for some of the earliest defense and logistical technologies in history. Legacy of 16th century maritime tech in modern naval design. The legacy of 16th century explorer ships isn't just buried in shipwrecks, it lives on in every modern naval vessel. The basic principles of wind navigation, hull engineering, sail control, and onboard logistics all evolved into the core systems of modern maritime defense. Thanks for watching. Subscribe our channel Defense Matrix for more interesting and knowledgeful videos.